Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 49. It is Friday, and it is round 2 with n.badilla. We got a packed episode, so much good in here. But I want to ask you a question. What can you accomplish today that will move your business forward? Think about it and do it. Don't take your foot off the gas. Hold tight. We'll be right back. One of my biggest aims in life is to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. And I'm so thankful for all the thoughts and ideas you've shared with me on how I can better do that. One of those ideas that has come up on a few different occasions has been, we love the long form conversational format, but sometimes it takes a while just to get through even one episode. What would it look like to aim for episodes that are 1 hour or less in length without compromising the format? And I thought, great idea. I love the long conversational format too, and I really want those conversations to be as accessible and easy to digest as possible. So I'm absolutely pumped to introduce a new innovation of what not to do. We'll keep the long form conversational format that has been so well received, and we'll divide it into 30 to 45 minute segments that'll make it more easy to digest on your morning commute or working out at the gym or run or hanging out at the house. This is going to be awesome. I'm so pumped to keep giving you such high value conversations, and now more accessible and easier to digest than ever. I'm so proud to be your guys' host and so thankful for all your help innovating and iterating to make this community even better. I love you guys. And with that, let's get to what not to do.
And in January of 17, I'd asked my parents to buy their hotels and flights for our July meeting where we do our President's Club honor night, where you get recognized in front of the whole company, get to give a speech. They lied to me. They didn't buy it yet, thank goodness, because our location changed halfway through my period of trying to get to President's Club, or my route to President's Club. So they just kind of kept it up, kept the facade up for me, and had a lot of people buying in on it. I had a gentleman I saw in February who told my story at his sales meeting. He was like, let me tell you about a 26-year-old I just met.
Yeah.
And he only got 2 questions after he shared his story. Oddly enough, his session at his national meeting was goals and motivation.
Awesome.
He told the story and he got 2 questions. One, did you buy anything? And he said, oh, hell yeah, I bought stuff. And then the other was from an executive team member, does he want a job? So, long story short, I came in a month early, almost to the day of when I wanted to hit President's Club. May 25th, 2017 was my deadline. I told my parents that. I was telling everybody that. And I had just absolute certainty I was going to do it. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. So my mind shifted a lot from what if to how am I going to? How can I get closer to it today? What can I do to bring me closer? What steps can I take? It was that what if left. There was a lot of fear in the beginning, but that fear turned into a lot of desire and just clarity. I don't think I've ever been as clear. I don't think I've ever worked as hard as I did, up until that point, but had as much fun. Because it was all intentional. And then I hit it. I hit it Tuesday of week 4 of April that year. And it was really cool. I was in Green Bay when I hit it. I went to Panera for lunch on Oneida. I remember talking to a few of people, my boss, some other friends who were accountability partners, to share the news, and they were just like, all right, floor it.
So when did you hit President's Club? It was
Tuesday, week 4 of April 2017. It was a little after 10:30 in the morning I hit it. It was actually my second lady client I had ever worked with that got me over there, a brand new lady that bought 2 shirts for me.
So you went from $563 on June 15th of 2016. Not quite a year later, you were already hitting President's Club. And now you had some smaller successes along the way there, but you hadn't hit President's Club in that time span, right?
Yep.
It's awesome. Very cool.
So a lot of peaks and valleys. The journey was not perfect by any means, but I kept thinking, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? And then once April started, I put a little more skin in the game because I had done the Southwestern coaching. I actually bought my tuxedo week 1 of the month of April for President's Club in July, which was really scary because what if I don't hit it,
What if you gain weight?
I wasn't worried about the weight thing. I was just more worried about like, oh my gosh, if I have to call my parents and tell them that I didn't do it and I bought this tux and they put all this money in there, like, what am I going to do? So just the paradigm shifted yet again and made it happen.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so cool. I love it. I mean, there's just so much there. If you're listening to this, I hope that you guys are motivated. You said discontent, Nick. I call it a holy discontent. I think sometimes discontent can be both positive and negative. So I like to distinguish by calling like there's just the discontentment where you just want what everyone else wants and you're not focused on what you ought to be focusing on and your goals and creating.
Yep.
You're just focused on what you don't have. In a negative sense, as far as like maybe you're just envious or jealous. And I find that that's kind of a destructive discontent. But then, I think, and this is what you were getting at, is you had this holy discontent within you, right? For what you wanted for your own life, right? Yep. And it wasn't so much about what everyone else had, although you look and say, hey, that's nice, but these are my goals, these are my dreams, these are my visions. And I see the chasm between where I want to be and what I have now today. And you realize, hey, like, the way that I think and I hold that vision will dictate whether or not that actually ever becomes a reality, right? Yep. And then obviously that vision helps you, it drives behavior, drives you to take on action, and to bring that reality about, which is awesome. So I love it, and there's just so much in the story. Okay, so let's do this. Let's dig in. First of all, as you're telling your story, I mean, I heard a lot of things that you did right. And sometimes we think of like, when we think back on a situation, we just remember the failure. Yep. I think it's really important that like, hey, if we did everything wrong, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we'd be dead, right? I mean, like one bad thing after another, and then whatever just leads to that, bottom of the ocean or whatever it is. So, so look back and think through, like, what did you do right? You said the first 18 months of your job, and kind of took us on a timeline, but take us back. What did you do right?
I stayed. Big thing that you hear when you're at Tom James is Tom James will change your life if you let it, but the only way you can really let it change your life is if you're willing to stay. Most people think that the grass is greener on the other side, when in reality it's brown on both. It's just a matter of perception.
A lot of dogs.
So exactly. So the big thing that I did right was that I stayed amidst all of the negativity, the turmoil. When I get negative, it's like I got blinders, and that's all I see. And I just attract it all. I've become very self-aware now, as I'm in my fifth year with Tom James full time, 6th year total. I got to work really hard to not fall into those traps. It's self-sabotaging, lazy. I don't feel like picking up the phone, and then it's just bad.
You can coast.
Yeah, you just coast. You're very unintentional. You're half-assing a lot of stuff, which is tough. I mean, you just kind of dig yourself in this hole and just keep digging it deeper and deeper because you're not doing anything, which is tough. Especially in a direct commission opportunity. If I'm not out selling clothes, I'm not making money. So if I'm not doing that, I'm not changing my spending habits. I'm just creating more financial stress for myself on top of the stress already I'm not producing. We constantly, as people, tie ourselves to our results, regardless of what industry, what company, what role you're in. We aren't defined by our results, and that's something I've had to learn over my time. And I'm still learning that. I'm still revisiting that. With the current state of affairs right now that we're in, I'm, nervous of what this week and next week's going to look like. They're pretty full right now. That's, probably going to change. Not that I want it to, but I just got to be ready and keep my mind on where am I going? What's the end in mind? What are we focusing on as an office? It's me and my business partner, Kevin. He's from the Reedsville area originally. He moved to Minneapolis to start. Came back with me once the opportunity was finally approved. And how do I keep him going? How do I keep myself going? How do we make sure the office still moves forward?
Yeah. All right, so you stayed, and you had some of that accountability, right, which is helpful. What else did you do that was right?
I still put forth effort, even though it necessarily wasn't always as intentional. I did...
Well, consistent
intentionality.
Yeah.
I think more days of consistent intentionality outweighed the days that I didn't. There were plenty of days where my boss just sent me home. Like, I just told him straight up, like, I'm not in it, man. Like, I'm really struggling today. And he eventually figured out how I work, and he still does it with me to this day, even from afar. He's like, dude, I get it. What are you going to do today before you leave? Go home. I don't care. Take figure out your head, get your head right, read your book, revisit your vision, whatever. But what can you accomplish today that will still move your business forward? And it was all tasks that are easy to check off. I can send out, 10 mailers. I can add 15 names to my database. I can make 50 phone calls, or I can make my 85 phone calls and leave. I can send out a mass email. It's like something that will help you feel like you still got a victory that day. That way you don't bring in, the negativity from yesterday into the next day.
Yeah, for sure. And just having. I think another thing that you did right was you listened.
I'm very coachable, so I took a lot of that.
Yeah, like when you initially called your buddy and you're like, dude, I'm out, and he said no, you're not, and you're like, you listened, right? And even like when you got that feedback from your boss, and saying, hey, look, he understands that if your mind's not in it, you're actually not only not productive at work, it can have a negative impact. Which can be worse, right? And for the reputation and all that kind of stuff. And so,
absolutely.
Hey man, maybe you should just go home, get your head right, and when your head's in the game, get back here, see you in the morning. And I think that kind of being able to take that kind of feedback is helpful. Instead of just being like, no, I'm just going to stay and try to grind it out. When we realize, hey, like the law of diminishing returns is in effect here, and it is more productive. It'd be better for the company if I just went home. I dug into my book, just gave some time and just recalled the vision, went back through my goals, and got in the game so I woke up tomorrow morning I was ready to crush it, right?
Yep.
Why? Why do I do what I do? Let me tell you. My why is to use my presence and my prose to inspire you to go all in on you so that you live a legacy worth leaving.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so I love it. Seth Godin?
I've heard the name.
Yeah. He's got a handful of good books out there. He's got one called The Dip.
Okay.
In The Dip, he talks about how every venture in life, every entrepreneurial venture, business, etc., it's going to have this valley. And most people quit in the valley.
Oh, yeah.
And you hear a lot of advice that says, hey, you shouldn't quit, you should just stick it out. And he says you shouldn't stick it out. He says you should quit. And the reason he says that, he gives one qualifier. He's like, if what's on the other side of this valley isn't worthwhile for you to endure the dip, then get out, then quit. And whatever it was for you, you stayed because what you saw on the other side of that valley, what you saw, across the valley, on the other side, on the mountain, whatever it might have been, that vision
100 miles
was worth it to you. And even though you needed help along the way, like we all do, mentors, buddies, whatever it is, bosses, to speak into our life and just to encourage us along the way and help us keep focus and stay on track, because in that valley it can get pretty sticky. It's awesome, man. Mm-hmm. And so read the book, but it's great. Sometimes people feel bad for quitting, and I actually think you should quit, and you should quit a lot. What would be better than having to quit would be picking something to start with that's worth sticking it out.
Yep.
But that would be different for every person. They have to get clear on what that is for them.
Absolutely.
And then when the dip comes, because it's going to come, stick it out. Okay, so what did you do wrong? Where did it go wrong? You're smiling, you're smirking. Just a few things. You did right. You stayed. You put forth effort. Maybe though inconsistently, you still put forth the effort and you listened. Okay, where did it go wrong?
I think where it went wrong is I didn't have any reason why I was working. I was working for the sake of working, and I wasn't really getting a paycheck that was relative to the effort that I thought I was putting in, and it just ultimately put me further and further in the downward spiral. The lack of intentionality, the lack of drive, purpose, motivation, vision, clarity, all of those things is what I did wrong. Never had it, never spent any time on it. At least for my first 18 months, never really spent any time on it. I was more interested, I think, in just using my natural talent. The success I've had has just come from some of my raw abilities to make things happen, and that wasn't enough. And I was too prideful to not accept that and make changes until my back was against the wall. I felt like I always had that safety net. I'm not saying I've lived a life with a silver spoon, but I'm definitely very blessed.
Gold.
Yeah, it was gold. But I've lived a very fortunate life, with what my parents were willing to sacrifice for me and my brother, to give us the opportunity to, ultimately get out of school without debt and just everything else. So I think I was too prideful, I was too stubborn, all of those unfortunate qualities that we all have at different times in life, and sometimes they're just more dominant than others, surrounded, obviously by the negativity. But yeah, I didn't spend any time taking care of myself at all. I blew through all of my shirts. I ripped elbows, ripped some pants because I put on weight from drinking too much, going out partying Friday and Saturday night just to blow off steam, and was just a miserable pile on Sundays. Ate bad. Just no self-love. Too prideful, stubborn, no self-love, coupled with just no intention, no vision. You think of the results pyramid, where it's the most strongest is obviously the base when it's your vision, your goals, and the results all the way at the top. For me, it was upside down. So you're teetering because you don't have that stability. You're on this point. If you flip the pyramid upside down and all you're thinking about is your results, tying yourself to your results, comparing yourself to others, my head was my worst enemy. And one of the guys in my office, his name's Daryl, in Minneapolis, really worked with me on that. He saw that, and he was really helpful in me getting stronger mentally and having that stamina to keep focused, keep the positive, work the plan and not a schedule. Schedule is only sustainable for so long when you burn out, and that's when I think most people end up leaving our company. Whereas if you work a plan, you're really thinking again in the end, beginning with the end in mind, and you're just going to do the daily tasks that are ultimately going to get you to this end point, regardless of how long it'll take you to get there. And I think that's obviously a lot more sustainable, and that's where I struggle, is going back and forth between the schedule and the plan, the schedule and the plan. Right now it's probably more plan than schedule, just with the new opportunity, but there are hiccups. There's days that aren't good. I missed a whole week last week, with part of it being my honeymoon, coming back early due to the coronavirus and everything going on, and just wanting to be safe, but wasn't ready to go back. I really wanted this vacation with my wife, and we just had a staycation at that point. So I kind of checked out for a bit, and then all the negativity started coming in. I didn't look at my goals, I didn't do anything. So that's where I've gone wrong. That's where it went wrong. That's where it continues to go wrong for me when it does go wrong.
Yeah, it's not a one and done, right? It's been said that having a vision, anyone can do that. Yep. Holding the vision is the hard work.
Oh yeah.
Holding the vision constantly, and not just for ourselves, but when we're in leadership positions,
you got to hold it up for them.
Others, right? And that's the heavy lifting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So a few things that are coming out here. The first that you mentioned, as far as things wrong, is just not being clear on what you wanted in life.
Yeah.
Everything flows out from that clarity of the end in mind. What's that end vision? What's that end goal? What's my purpose? What's my why, right? And then everything kind of falls out from there as far as you reverse engineer that.
Yeah.
You got a plan and tactical goals, and you execute that.
Yep.
Another thing was you rely too much on your natural talent, right? It's like, hey, man, I got skill, right? It's multiplying. And you didn't seek to cultivate that or build that or grow into that. Mm-hmm. You thought you kind of had it. You didn't. How could you get any better, right? And I think that's something we all bring natural talent and skills and abilities to the table.
Absolutely.
And that's something you see in sports so much, like in the NFL or whatever. These athletes that end up being kind of lazy because they have so much natural ability that got them to where they are. And not saying that there's any work involved,
sure,
but they don't really excel like they could. And it's because they rely so much on their natural ability versus just the grind, or working the plan.
I think that's a great example. You think of any superstar athlete that's come and gone in their sport, the difference between them and somebody who just makes it to the NFL and the average career is like 3 years. What separates you from being a starter to a backup or a practice squad member is really, I think, just your work ethic and how bad you want it. I think of Tim Grover and the stuff I've listened to from him when he was, coaching Kobe and Michael and all these guys, and how to get them to the next level, being being elite, being relentless and getting there. And that's why these individuals have sustained careers for as long as they did. I think the same principle can be applied really to any sort of opportunity that you want to go after, whether it is athletics or if it's in business. And I think as I've gotten older and I've gotten wiser, granted I'm not 30 yet, so I don't have a ton of wisdom to draw on, but I surround myself with enough people that have made enough mistakes, I ask enough questions, I seek to understand in most circumstances now, I've dropped my pride. That's why I think I've gotten to the point where I'm at now. And I think that's why people get to where they want to go, and why, like Max Sharpening, who's with the Houston Texans, he's from the Green Bay area. I've read a little bit about him. Scotty Smith, worked with him. He worked with him. Obviously, that guy did a lot of right stuff with him, and the kid also wanted it bad enough.
Yeah.
So why does he go to the NFL and have a really cool career and make it past his rookie year and has a strong second year or wherever he's at, versus the guy who's same talent level, played on the same team, didn't get drafted, or got signed to a practice squad, and might last 3 years and then he's out.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
It's amazing because when you get to that level, to say that no one put in the work would be like just wrong, right? Mm-hmm. But then you really see who puts in the work over against natural ability, and who relies more on the natural ability versus putting in the work.
Yep.
And everyone's putting in the work at that level, but not the same. I think of like Tom Brady. I'm a Packer guy.
Oh, yeah.
I like the Patriots.
Same.
And I like how they built like an organization that dominated for 20 years.
Sure.
It's like there's so much you can just learn from that and just in all of life. Yeah, Tom Brady got drafted 199.
Yep.
But he doesn't have the natural ability that, like, let's say Aaron Rodgers has. But he has a hell of a work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that kind of focus and drive determination and keeping that in mind, the goals. I mean, he's got, he's only won 6 out of 9 Super Bowls, so I mean, he's not, he's
not perfect,
but he's lost more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers has won, or even been in, right?
Yeah.
And that's just crazy to think about. And if you divided his career in half, his 2 10 years career, they would both be Hall of Fame careers. A handful of Super Bowls in each. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And most guys, have 3 years in the league, and he's 20, going on his 21st year in the NFL. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And he's not naturally talented. Like, he had to work, right? He had to grind. His college career wasn't that great, right?
Yeah.
And then there's opportunity and call it luck, whatever it is, to get into the right system, all that kind of stuff. But
sure.
But again, those are things you can't necessarily plan for. You got to put in the work. You have to have the vision, and it's like that compounding effect. Eventually, it's going to spike.
Yeah.
Eventually, that opportunity is going to come, and you position yourself to be able to take it. So that's awesome. And then the last one, you didn't care for yourself.
Nope.
Everything from partying on the weekends to not investing in yourself, not growing and cultivating like what you already brought to the table.
Yeah.
Really becoming the best version of you in the sense like you're helping other folks to do from like an image perspective. But there's so much more. That's just one piece of the pie when we talk about putting. Becoming the best version of ourselves, not just how we look, but act and all kind of stuff. And
sure.
Obviously, how we look plays in a dimension of how we think of ourselves and all kind of stuff, and vice versa. So that's helpful, man. I think those are some really good takeaways that we need to be reminded of what not to do.
Well, now, hindsight's 20/20 at this point. When I think back on where I was to where I am now, I know when I was really struggling, not taking care of myself, I was pouring from an empty cup into others. I was helping a lot of other people, but I wasn't willing to help myself. And eventually that changed. I got to a point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I started eating better. I started working out in the fall of 17. So after I hit President's Club, I went through the summer. I had a lull in May, had a really good June, had an okay July, and then really kind of just started to get some really good success from August, through the end of the year. But in September, I finally decided, okay, I need to start taking better care of myself. Oddly enough, I made my next goal at that point about my now wife Dana, because the incentive trip in the spring, when you hit President's Cabinet, was to Dana Point. So I was like, I had this vision in my head. I'm just gonna make her point at crap, take pictures. It's Dana and Dana Point. And eventually, I woke up one morning and was like, after putting her through a roller coaster of our relationship, I decided I was gonna propose. So after Thanksgiving, had that decision, had a really strong fall going into December. Bonus helped me able to go afford an engagement ring. So I drove down to Oklahoma City at the end of the year to close out 2017, my best year yet. Went from 259, 731, 1236 in terms of units, and got an engagement ring, and then showed up on my birthday, in 2018, and 8 days later I proposed. And I couldn't have got there without making some of those changes. I lost 30 pounds in the fall of 17, ultimately to then take the last 2 years off and slowly put it all back on. Again, where did it go wrong? I took my foot off the gas. I didn't make the change. The changes weren't sustainable. They were just working a schedule versus a plan.
How do I do what I do? Well, for me, there's one overarching ultimate principle: to give you more in use value than I take in cash value. It'd be like if I wrote a book and you bought that book for $10, but that book gave you a $1 million idea. I have effectively given you more in use value than I've taken from you in cash value. And that's exactly what I aim to do with what not to do.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Don't take your foot off the gas.
It's so easy. When you achieve your target, you hit your goal. My friend Adrian Trumbo, who used to work with our company, now is doing something else, he's in Portland, Oregon. He was the one that was telling me to now start, once I hit Presence Club, I called him. He was one of my accountability buddies in April, and he's like, okay, so where are you at? I'm here now in my rolling 12-month period over Presence Club. Okay, how close can you get between now and the end of April to Presence Cabinet? And I kind of sat there for, probably what was a few seconds, but for me, it probably felt like a minute or two, and I was like, okay, let's go. Let's floor it. I've got a busy rest of the week. Let's see how close I can get to President's Cabinet this month and not worry about it. And then it took me till November to finally hit it, but I eventually figured it out and finished the year, had my best year. At that point, a lot of good things coming, and it was because he suggested to not take my foot off the accelerator. You hit it, great. Take it in, enjoy it. It's not like this profound moment of the clouds part, angelic music starts playing, and this ray of sunshine hits me, and I had this grand epiphany. And nothing like that happen. I was at Panera having lunch by myself.
Yeah.
And it was just that quick shift of an attitude, mindset of, okay, let's go. I'm already having my best month. Let's make it better. Let's really have a nice, healthy paycheck come in and feel like you have a little bit of money and you can tuck some away and replenish what you depleted up until this point. So, big thing, don't take your foot off the gas.
Love it, man. And it's huge, and it's we can get so wrapped up in the long-term goals, long-term play, that we don't actually go all in today. It's like there's a temptation to worry too much about the past or worry too much about the future. And so it's like we need to hold the vision, and then what does that vision mean? What do we do today, right? And when we go all in today, we don't have to worry about yesterday. We don't have to worry about tomorrow, because we knew we gave it everything that we possibly could today. We sleep well at night, wake up and do it over tomorrow again. Right?
Yep.
And by holding that vision every day and saying, what can I do today? Like you said that earlier, what can I accomplish today that will move your business forward? And you just have that mindset every day connected to that greater vision. It's amazing, right? You look up finally, it's like, oh wow. Right? Then don't get prideful, don't rest on your laurels. Keep going, right? There's more people to help, and that's why we're in business in the first place. So a turning point for you, it seemed like when you went from 563 in June 15 of 2016, you then reached up. You got help coaching, right?
Yep.
And this program that came your way, and less than a year later, you hit President's Club.
11 months later, actually, after my first call, I hit President's Club.
Right. And so tell us about this turning point, and maybe combine it in, if you could go back and do things differently. Or counsel young Nick, you clearly had a turning point here.
Yeah.
It seems to me that coaching program was probably at least part of it. But kind of take us into that time and say, okay, where was this turning point? How did it go? And then going back, if you could give your young self, a chance to do something differently, what would you tell them to have done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. My Southwestern coach, her name's Jenny Newt. I highly recommend the program to anybody. They don't just work with Tom James people; they work with anybody and everybody who wants help. And she was my coach. She eventually became my friend. She came to my wedding. All that good stuff. And it was just another degree of accountability. Really, that helped in that turning point. I finally made something happen that I set out and put my mind to. Up until that point, I had not done that. It was just kind of going through the motions. I just want to be consistent, good enough effort, 70% effort maybe, instead of 100% effort, day in and day out, as many days as you can consecutively. And she got me uncomfortable with a lot of different things too. 1 month she said, if you miss 85 dials one time in the month, you have to go look up your high school bully, and you have to go send him $100. I almost hung up on her. I was so mad. And she knows how I feel about bullying, because that's a lot of middle school and early high school, just from conversations, and it really irked me, but it kept me accountable. And she was teaching me a lesson very indirectly. Now that I can look back on it, hindsight's 2020. But that's where the paradigm really shifted, and where I started thinking about more of where am I going, what do I want, how can I help more people, what would I tell myself. Maybe get involved with the coaching program earlier, even though you really can't afford it. Maybe if I had done it earlier, I could have. I could be even further than where I am right now. Maybe I could have got the business plan approved a year earlier and moved home a year earlier. I don't know. I would say start the coaching program earlier. If I could talk to my younger self, and then figure out your why, figure out the vision. Where are you going? What do you want? And just hold tight on that and review it every day. And that's something my current sales coach, his name's Jeff Franklin, he's out of our Lubbock, Texas office. He's challenging me to review my goals daily, every day, same time every day, first thing in the mornings, and get ready right after I do my gratitude, pen to paper, or do it on an app, whatever, but just constantly reviewing them. We become what we think about most. What we talk about, what we write about, what we read about ultimately wins. So he's telling me that you need to be thinking about this a lot more, and ultimately you will become a Chairman's Club member, because that's the next goal. To sell $834,000 in 12 months versus the 417.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, getting that really, whether it's coaching, mentoring, or buddy, or all the above, to hold you accountable. Like that accountable piece can help us. People that are cheering us on, championing us on, rather than telling us, "Hey, Nick, you should just slow down." It's not really realistic for you to get President's Club in your first year. So no, why would you want people like that? Find the people that are for you, that will hold you accountable, and that will help you to become even better.
Yep.
And that probably means reaching up. Probably means reaching up to people that are more successful than you are, right?
Oh yeah.
And getting yourself around. You mentioned, you have a mentor. I think you said he owns a company in the area.
Kurt Boss.
Yeah, just reaching up, right? Actually, I think Drew Leatherberry mentioned him.
Mm-hmm. Drew Leatherberry made him some shirts as well.
Nice, cool. There you go. Drew's a great guy. We had a still get together. He's on a little bit later episode. I think he'll come too. So that's awesome, and that's so good, and we need that, and to have that from the start is huge. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we think we can just go it alone and we can fortify, and there's a dimension where, hey, we need to make sure that we're all in. But it's really, really helpful when we know that we've got other people cheering us on, asking us, how are things going? Hey, did you do this today? Did you do all you could do today, right?
I think part of that, too, is you really just have to check the ego at the door. You have to throw your cool card away, rip it up. That maybe is another thing I tell myself earlier on, you've got some men's clothing history, from 3 years between 2 locations at Men's Warehouse between high school and college. Great. You still don't know enough about this business and how this works, how we manufacture the clothing for our clients, how do we go about measuring. You don't know everything. Yeah, you're knowledgeable. You're more knowledgeable than most people who started with you, but you're not as knowledgeable as the guy that's been here for 10 years, 5 years, 25 years, whatever. So checking the ego at the door, I think, is another thing I would have told myself. Not to think you know it all, because you don't. Most people my age, younger, older, plus or minus a few years, I think at one point early on in college, we just, we have this invincibility feeling. We know everything, why we rebel, and I think maybe some of that, to a degree, carried with me in my start of my career, and not wanting to check that at the door and then really become a master of my craft. Trusting the process more than thinking raw talent and work ethic's just going to get me there.
Yeah, it's interesting. How we can completely short circuit the process.
Oh yeah, self-sabotage
in so many different ways. Whether it's Okay, awesome, man. So we whether we realize this or not, we don't go it alone in life. We're constantly being shaped and influenced, and we have several. dare I say, thousands of people that shape and influence us. I mean,
Yep.
some are very well aware of, some others we would never ever even realize that they had an impact on us.
Yep.
Sometimes it's directly, sometimes it's indirectly, like books you've read that you've never met, or people that you've been directly, working with, such as your mentor Kurt, or your parents, or a boss, or all kind of stuff, a buddy. Sometimes positively saying like, hey man, you can do more, right?
Yep.
Or sometimes negatively saying, you're never going to be anything in life, right? And that's what pinballs us to go in the other direction.
Yep.
It's crazy. So for you, man, probably several people that come to mind, but who's one that sticks out kind of head and shoulders above the rest, that if you took them out of the equation, you just wouldn't be n.badilla who you are today with the success that you've experienced?
I think maybe it's a cliche, maybe it's not, but I definitely say if I didn't have my dad's influence from very early on, in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today. He's my role model. He's who I aspire to be the best version of me. Who I will one day be, I'm now becoming. I got that from my friend Adrian, but my dad, Dave Badilla, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the principles, the ideology, the faith without really him. Obviously, my mother in there too. I mean, they're both 50-50, equal partners in who I become. I just know that there's been times of tough love in my life, and it's come from my dad because my mom is very empathetic. Mother bear comes out, when her bear cub is hurt or getting hurt or someone's picking on it, whatever. But when I'd screw up, and I screwed up a lot growing up because I had friends with older siblings, so I was very naive, so I got in trouble a lot. It wasn't necessarily like a weekly thing, but it was always surrounded by big events that I got in trouble. Going into high school, it was getting caught drinking. Ending middle school, it was caught stealing dance tickets and selling them for cash.
There's an entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Yeah, right. In a really bad setup. But my dad cracking the whip when he needed to, and really putting principle behind some of the punishments that I received for the errors that I made growing up. I don't know who I would be without some of them, and I think he'd be the top one if I had to pick one.
Yeah.
It'd be him, but otherwise both my parents equal in shaping me and who I am today.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Love it. All right, you've given us a lot of good things to do and good advice, even amidst the failures. But I'm curious, man, what's some of the worst advice that you hear floating around these days, or maybe that you were given somewhere along the way, or maybe even that you gave once upon a time?
Oh man, it's tough. Like I was thinking about that prior to this, and listening to the different podcasts and things that you've done already with other people, and I really don't know what would be the worst advice I've ever given, or some of the worst advice I've ever received. That's a tough one. I feel like just being a cautiously over-optimistic person, I don't really pay attention to a lot of that. I could probably give you feedback if that helps, in terms of what somebody told me once, twice.
Yeah, just
for the advice. I don't know. I don't really have anything that jumps off the page to me.
Yeah, something that's just kind of like crummy advice, like you're cranking away, at Copper Rock Coffee here, and you hear someone over at Table 9 just tell his buddy, hey, you should go do this. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that's not good. No, you should not do that. That's just terrible advice. What's something that comes to mind?
I guess I don't know how good it is, but some of the advice that I've heard from other people or even seen kind of happen in front of me is just put in more hours, just work harder, as opposed to figuring out what's going wrong or what's not going right and analyzing your business, as opposed to just kind of blindly trying to hit a hammer, and eventually the nail's going to go in. But if you're just hammering away, and have no direction, it's going to take you a lot longer. You're going to make a lot more noise. You're probably going to get sore. That kind of thing. I think just, hey, it's not clicking. What's going on, Kyle? Just work harder. You'll figure it out. That doesn't help me. I'm not necessarily an analytical person, but I thrive on feedback and coaching in order to make those changes, regardless of how incremental or how paradigm shifting they may be.
Right. Yeah, a couple different things pop into mind. It's you have a hammer to go chop down a tree, and you might eventually chop through that tree, but man, you're gonna get pretty hungry doing that. Or even like people say like, hitting your head up against a brick wall type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like how about you just go get yourself like a little grappling hook and climb that bad boy, like Spider-Man that thing.
Yep.
Like you said, yeah, it's I just work harder seems to be incomplete advice at best.
Yeah.
Because like then the sense is like, yeah, like maybe you just need to work harder. Maybe you just need to put your foot on the gas, and maybe it is about action. Maybe it is about activity. But maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe there's something else that's there where if you just told someone to work harder, unqualified, or it could just be super incomplete.
Yeah.
You know the why, and you know the how. So what? What is it that we're going after? Well, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to inspire 1 billion people to live a legacy worth leaving by 2030. That's 100 million people per year for the next 10 years. And my friend, it starts with you. This podcast is for you, it's about you, and I couldn't do it without you.
I mean, there's really no direction. It's ambiguous at best.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from people. Like whether it was to me or I heard somebody else say it to somebody else. Have I said it? Probably. I mean, if I'm seeing somebody not really working, work hard. Like come to work. You're here for a reason. You're not gonna just all of a sudden hit President's Club overnight or Chairman's Club or whatever your dream is or whatever your goal is. Like you have to work towards it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about any other dream or goal that you've had. It didn't just happen. It's a process. You have to put in the effort.
Can you imagine those days where your head wasn't in the game and you like call your boss and he's like, well, hey Nick, just work harder.
Oh, I would have told him to get bent and hung up and left.
Yeah, like exactly. Like he understood like it's not just about working harder. He understood it was about in a sense efficiency. Like productivity-wise, like understanding like what's that deeper problem that's going on, diminishing returns, and that's not saying like, hey, like hard work's not important. We want to make sure that we just don't use that as a band-aid.
Yeah,
and we're
a crutch.
It's just we're treating a symptom and not curing the actual issue.
Yep.
Which is huge. So that's good, man. All right, it's rush hour time, baby. From Appleton to the 612. To
middle of nowhere between Wausau and Eau Claire.
So what's that? The 715? Is that the
715 from Shawano West?
And billions of people, obviously within that 3-hour window, and they're all stuck in a traffic jam because we have horrible traffic.
Yeah, cows are crossing the road or something, holding up traffic.
It's deer season, and they're in heat, and they look up and they see a billboard, and they're probably, because they're on their commute home, they're probably listening to this episode of What Not to Do with n.badilla, which is just great. And what a coincidence! They look up and they see a billboard, and it's your billboard. My golly, like who would have thought?
What are the odds?
What message do they see, man? What message do you want the world to see?
It'd probably be a two-parter, and to this day, it still stays with me. And my boss Nate would always tell me this: if I get uncomfortable, is action cures fear, and just stay. With whatever you're going through, if you as you had mentioned, if that next rise for the peak that you can see down the way is worthwhile, stay. But in order to get there, to see if it's worthwhile, you have to act. You can't just be complacent. You can't just kind of hide behind the phone or hide behind your computer or hide in your office. You have to get out there and get after it. You have to action cures fear. The more you can do, the more activity, the less thinking, the less fear you have. So I would say be the two-part. Action cures fear and just stay.
Yeah. That's good, man. I love it. Maybe it'd be one billboard, first, and then half mile later, the next billboard, right? I mentioned this earlier, but action cures fear. That's a good way of saying, when we ask, why do we worry so much about tomorrow?
Yeah.
Why all this anxiety? Well, it's because we're not actually taking action today. Mm-hmm. And I think deep down we sense that, maybe even on a subconscious level, and we have this guilty feeling, but just and then it gives way to anxiety. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't really go all in today. Yeah, what's that going to mean for tomorrow, right? And then these fears arise because all kind of stuff. But those fears they'd be irrelevant or even non-existent had we gone on today. And I think people would sleep better at night if they just said, like, hey, I can't control the past, it's done. Right? I don't even know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I can go on today, right? And I'm going to give it all, pour myself out, I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight and do it again tomorrow. And by taking that kind of action, it really leaves no worry for fear, right? Because we can be at peace with ourselves, knowing that we did what we could, for not only, taking our skills and talents and abilities and unleashing them in service to the world around us, not only for our own sakes, but for the sake of our family and the world. And it's just a good thing.
I mean, who doesn't want a good night's sleep? Who doesn't want to wake up the next morning feeling just good about the day and ready to kind of take it on? Carpe diem, seize the day. Why hang on to what was going into today just to set yourself backwards already, or put yourself in that, you just took 2 steps forward. Now why are we taking 4 steps back by taking what happened yesterday into today? Right. And that's something I think anybody who's curious on being an entrepreneur, or really any opportunity, I mean, your day's never going to go according to plan. Yeah. It's whether or not you have plan B, C, D, all the way through Z, or what are your action items that, if your day does go sideways, what can you do to accomplish? Yeah. And I think as long as you can end the day with victories, regardless of what you do, whether you're a teacher, a sales professional, a doctor, a business owner, CEO, I think most people, if they can just complete something where everything went really well, everything went to hell in a handbasket today, but I did this, that's a win. I can hang my hat on that for the day, and I can come back refreshed tomorrow, ready to go. And I think just more people, I would love for more people to have that mentality, but I didn't get there overnight. I mean, it took me 5-6 years to get here. So hopefully people, when they listen to your podcast on what not to do, they can shorten that 6-year time period, 3, maybe a year and a half. If it took me 3 years to hit President's Club, in theory, if I were to up and move and restart, I could probably do it in 18 months because I already know what to do. I have 3 years worth of knowledge. Let's just condense it into 18 months. And then if I did it again...
Why does that take that long, right?
Yeah, exactly. So why can't I do it in 9 now? If I just did it in 3, I did it in 18, let's just do it in 9.
Right. Yeah, man, and that's the hope, right? I say this often on the podcast, but I mean it. It's amazing, how you sharing your story, you opening up about not just what you did right, but where it went wrong, and how you might counsel someone else to do it differently, or a young Nick to do it differently. Something you said in there could have radically changed the course of someone else's life forever. Oh, yeah. You may never have met them, but they might have taken that and been like, bam, light bulb moment, right? Maybe it was for you, that first time after that 563, month you had in June 2016, that's and then this coaching, program shows up. And it was bam, light bulb moment. 11 months later, President's Club, right? And who knows, just something that you said in passing, it's just amazing. So I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I love it. All right, books. Talk to me. He pulls out the phone.
I actually took pictures of the books that I have just because I don't want to screw anything up when I say them. I've never been a big reader, so I do a lot of audio stuff.
Cool, good, you're good. Yeah, so give us 3 books that you think people should read sooner than later. They don't have to be your absolute favorite books, but they're game changers, and the reason that's why people need to read them sooner than later, because they'll change the game for them.
The first one I read recently, just with the new opportunity of opening a new office and running it, we have some additional training that goes with it. So the first book we read was Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. It's by a retired Navy Admiral, William H. McRaven. I mean, the gist of the book, it talks about a lot of the things that he struggled with going through training and to get where he was. But it all really just focused on the one thing that he did every morning, whether or not the day went sideways. He made his bed. And I think that's really applicable to our conversation today. And whatever happens, what was the one thing that you did right today? What was the one thing that helped move your business forward? That's what you can focus on as the positive, regardless if you had 10 negatives. Those kinds of things. So that's a really good one. It's a really quick read. It's
move your business forward or life?
In either or. I mean, we were given the book really more just to think about our leadership, and we, even preface in the email, you're probably wondering why we're giving this, to a sales manager role, but try to approach it more so from not just a sales manager, but just in general, life, whatever. So I thought that was really good. The second book that I had listened to is Max Out Your Life, #Max Out Your Life, Ed Milet. And then Ed Milet actually led me to Grant Cardone, and I had heard a lot about him on your podcast here. But Max Out Your Life, Strategies for Becoming an Elite Performer, he's just all about figuring out what your why is, and then how do you max out every day.
Cool.
How do you move yourself forward? How do you move your business forward? How do you achieve your goals? How do you achieve your dreams? And his story is really interesting along the way, too. And then what I just started before I went to the Bahamas, which I kind of fell off the wagon, but I got the 10X rule from Grant Cardone. A ton of my partners within our company have read it, have recommended it. I just haven't done it. So I got the book, I have the audio. Now it's just getting back on track and listening to it. I'll probably start it over just because it's been over a week since I listened to it, and I wasn't that far, so might as well go back and see what I can take out of it.
Actually, Uncle G was talking about just recently a few posts on social media about how, just given the stuff with coronavirus, at the time of this recording at least, and how that can create times of economic uncertainty.
Yep.
Like, he wrote the book for that. And he said, like, maybe now's the time you need to go back and reread the 10X rule because I wrote it. So the temptation or the natural bent in a time of economic uncertainty or like a recession is to contract.
Yep.
And he says you need to expand. Right? The temptation is to want to say, okay, we need to conserve and contract and all kind of this. And he's like, no, this is the time you need to expand and go 10X everything, right? And if he could go back, because he lost millions in this period of time in 2008, a similar thing, and he wish he would have, if he could have gone back differently. If I recall the story correctly, he wish he would have taken a much more aggressive, expansive approach. And in a sense, he did. He's course corrected even amidst it. But yeah, it would be a timely read. I was actually thinking myself of going back through it just to be refreshed with those principles.
Another guy that comes to mind too, I don't know if he's got any books. I usually just follow him on social media, but it's a similar business, is Manny Koshman. Okay. Manny, Ed, and Grant, I mean, they're all tight. Andy Frisella is another guy that's out there. But Manny Koshman, when you said like expanding right now in these times of economic turmoil, market volatility, that's what Manny did. Manny made his money. He moved here from Iran, I believe, very young kid, came over with his dad and his family, and he made all of his money during these downturns. I mean, the guy's millions and millions of dollars times over. He's got one of the only ever like custom-made Bugattis in the world. Like, this guy is crazy. But it just resonates with me with what you said, because that's what he did. He took advantage and was out buying commercial real estate, buying buildings, etc., and expanding as opposed to consolidating and kind of turning inward like, oh, I got to hold on to my money right now. So I think that is a great example of, what Grant talks about.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, your money's sitting in the bank or whatever, and it's literally losing. I mean, it's not even keeping up with depreciation, right? But it's not even just about money. It's about just all forms of capital.
Yep. So
think about like you as yourself. Now is the time to really expand yourself, right? Now is the time to expand what you know. With that intellectual capital. So human capital, yourself, intellectual capital, what you know.
Yep.
And then, yes, financial capital, what you have, the yield of who you are and what you know, and the financial fruit that yields. But all three need to be expanded. And I've talked about this before, but it's like we spend so much of our lives like crawling around on the floor, being like, oh, I'm so afraid to fall. It's like, dude, you're on the floor. You can't fall. Like, you're already there, right?
Yep.
And it's like, man, like, just stand up and look up and see that there's a cosmos to be conquered, and just like the upside that you could gain, the potential upside and the potential gain there is so much greater than what you could even lose. And like taking that mindset into like every day, whether or not it's a recession or not, whether it's a bear or a bull, man, we need to be expanding and conquering and moving out, and just remembering like. And this is what I love about Grant Cardone, is just like, what would you rather fall short of? A big dream or a small dream? You want to make $100,000 this year or $1 million, right? Well, like you said, you're basically going to create your reality. And so, like, well, if you have a $100,000 goal, but you fall short and you make 80, okay, not bad. But if you had that $1 million target, maybe you made $500,000. What would you rather fall short of? Oh, but I was $20,000 off my goal and $500,000 off that goal. Like, clearly, no, come on, dude. You made $500,000. Like, come on, like.
No one's going to be upset about that.
No, and no one's going to be like, I was only 50% of goal, but I hit $500,000, right? Versus I was 80% of goal, I don't hit 80,000.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, like, and so I think we need those reminders at times like this when we're, being, retreating in grocery stores are empty and people want to go under lockdown. It's like, don't buy into that mindset of fear, of anxiety. Look for opportunities to be able to expand, and that should be at the heart of that. Driving that is how you can help other people, right? So, bro, this has been so much fun, awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love these conversations. Like, I make a new friend, which is so cool. And I love the way you think. I love where your mind's at, and I'm excited for you to continue to get success and help other people. So, like, if people wanted to reach out with you, connect you, have you revamp their wardrobe, or just network with you,
Sure.
Hang out, make a new friend, where can they find you?
I'm really anywhere and everywhere. All my information's public, but my biggest one that I'm probably on right now, just because I'm in a growth mindset and have been for the last year plus, LinkedIn. It's n.badilla. You can also find me on Instagram, Fox Cities Taylor, all one word. There's a Facebook page too, n.badilla Professional Clothier, same thing, Fox Cities Taylor. All my info's out there. Cell phone, you can text, email, it all goes to the same place in this day and age.
Snapchat, TikTok?
No TikTok. I don't really do a ton with Snapchat. I snap friends. That's about it. I try to keep that one a little bit more personal than the other stuff.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, this has been so good. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome conversation with Nick. Man, he has just so much energy comes radiating out of him. I walked into that coffee shop, Copper Rock, which, by the way, I miss. Anyone miss a coffee shop? I walked in that coffee shop and he was just on it. It was just awesome. So, man, so glad to know Nick. If you don't know him, reach out to him. He is as outgoing as they get, and he would love to connect with you. I know that for a fact. Okay, so let's recap what Nick told us not to do. Here we go. First, don't take your foot off the gas. Don't take your foot off the gas. Like it's we get in life where we're revving, and this is like, oh, this is so awesome, we're cruising, and we stop. And we like, oh shoot, in Nick's story, he lost 30 pounds, gained it back, right? Because he stopped, he took his foot off the gas. We can do that in business, where we, go, and then we stop, right? And we took our foot off the gas. So here's the secret. So how do we go? Like, what are we going to burn out? Are we going to run out of gas? Like, what do we do if we take, we got to manage this thing, right? Exactly. You have to pace it, right? You have to pace it in such a way that your foot is always on the gas and that you're cruising, right? And when you get to that sweet spot, that rhythm of life, it's huge, and you're not going to feel like you're burning out, because all of life isn't meant to be a sprint. Yes, there are times to push yourself. There are times to sprint. There are times to really floor it. But what we're not talking about here when we say don't take your foot off the gas, we're not talking about flooring it, right? We're talking about finding that sustainable pace, and that was Nick's advice. It wasn't sustainable. He couldn't keep up with it, and that's why he ended up taking his foot off the gas. So find that sustainable pace, that ideal speed in your life that you can operate at. That's going to be a blessing to you, to those around you, and to the world ultimately. And don't take your foot off the gas. Second, don't rely on natural talent. Do not rely on natural talent. We've heard this one a few times before in a few different ways. People always say it a little bit differently. I think it comes down to the same thing. It's like we want to take the path of least resistance. And in a sense, we should want to lean into our strengths, right? Like that's a good thing. That's a good inclination. Here's the deal. We can get stuck there. We can stop working. We can stop trying to grow and improve and become even a better version of ourselves. We would be fooling ourselves to think that we've already arrived, right? And that we're at the peak of our ability and our skills. We can always get better. So don't rely on natural talent. Never stop learning. Keep going. Keep developing yourself. Third, don't be content. Don't be content. And you say, what? You were supposed to be content. No. Do not be content. So here's the deal. Two different kind of discontents that I'm talking about. The first flows from a lack of gratitude. You're not thankful unto anyone for anything, right? And this is the kind of discontent that you don't want to have, right? So when I say don't be content, I don't have this one in mind. You should certainly be grateful and be thankful and be content in such a way that you are thankful for everything that you have, and you're not lusting and coveting more and all that kind of stuff. So that set aside, what do I mean when I say don't be content? Well, I think you should have what I would call a holy discontent, right? It's a desire for more, for better, for good, right? Just like we talked about, developing the better version of yourself. As long as you're fogging a mirror, you can still grow and improve. So you ought to be doing that. And there should be a holy discontent that has this, idea of the person that you could become and the person that you are today. And you want to continue to grow and develop to become that person. And there should be holy discontent within that tension, within that distance that drives you towards becoming that person. Why? Because it's the most loving thing you could do, not just for yourself, but for your neighbor and the world around you, right? Fourth, don't neglect yourself. Speaking of which, don't neglect yourself. Care for yourself. Basic things. A great book, Matthew Kelly, The Rhythm of Life. He really kind of breaks down finding that pace, finding that rhythm. I just finished it about a week ago. I couldn't recommend it more. Talks really about caring for the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, the spiritual side of components of our lives, and how that's so important in cultivating ourselves and making sure that we're coming to the game, as best equipped as we can in all four of those areas. Super important. Something I think I probably neglected in various seasons of my life, or I've probably neglected one or two of those things, and focus on the others, etc. And I think you got to find a way, and Matthew Kelly helps to do this in the book, but find a way to cultivate all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't be the coach. Don't be the coach, right? You are the player. Get in the game, go make a play. Don't be the coach. Go get one. If you don't have a coach, go get one, right? Go get someone that can champion you on, that can help you to think at a higher level, and help you to grow and become that better version of yourself. I mean, you look at so many folks in life, and they all had, some of the most successful people, if not all of them, and maybe that's an exaggeration. I should qualify. I don't actually know, but it seems every story I hear of successful people, there was always someone behind them, coaching them, driving them, encouraging them on, championing them on, right? Find that person in your life, and get with them. Right. And ideally, they would have success. They would have knowledge. They would have ways that they can drive you on. I don't buy that the coach has to have played the game necessarily. I look at like Belichick, wasn't a great player, great coach. Right. And so I look at finding just a good coach that can help to maximize your potential and your skills. Go find a coach. Last but not least, don't fly blind. Don't fly blind. And I want to talk about 2 gauges. As I was thinking over this not to do from Nick, 2 things stuck out to me. If you're thinking that you're in the cockpit of an airplane, right? And what it would mean to fly blind. 2 things, pride and plan. Pride and plan come together, and you would have two gauges, on the dash. One would be for pride, and one would be for plan, right? And you want to know where those gauges are at. If pride is redlining, you're going to be blind. You will be blinded by your own pride. If you have no plan, you are flying blind, right? And so you want that plan gauge to be full. You got a full tank for plan. You know exactly where you're going, and you know what it's going to take to get there. Bam. And you want an empty tank on pride, or at least the kind of selfish pride. I think it's good to be proud in your work, to have pride in your kiddos and your family and all that kind of stuff. But again, that kind of selfish pride, ignorance, the type of pride that causes you to be blind to your soft spots, to your blind spots, all that kind of stuff. Be done with that, right? You want that tank on empty, and you want the plan tank on full. Maybe that's not a great analogy. I think it's fantastic. Just whipped it up out of nowhere. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation with Nick. I hope you enjoyed this particular recap. We were stacked and it was good. A lot to talk through, which is awesome. If this has been encouraging to you, share it with a friend. And you can do that by leaving a 5-star review on whatever platform that you listen to. Would be awesome. And from there, it's Friday. So get out of here. Go enjoy the weekend. Don't take your foot off the gas. It's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great. We'll see you next time.